Well, welcome to Be a Voice on Usalamedia. This is Britt James, and I'm really excited about today's show. Today, I'm sitting here with a guest that I've had on my show many times and a really good friend of mine. I'm sitting here today with Roz Pichardo. Hey, Roz.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
It's early, isn't it?
It is. Bright and early.
Bright and early. Speaking of bright, it's beautiful out today.
It is.
It don't have to be 87 degrees today.
It's going to be like that tomorrow, too.
It is. You know, it's interesting because with this weather, it just sort of shifts on us so quickly. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a change. It's just a drastic change.
Yeah.
And it's probably a really good segue to even just get right into this episode and talk about what we're here to talk about, of course, which is you and all the wonderful work you do, and you know the mean streets that you've been, you know, out there working for the last 10 years plus.
Yeah.
And everything you've been doing. I know you. You're one of my closest friends and one of my closest confidants, and a person that I could tell everything to. But you know, for those who don't know you, shame on you if you don't know Roz. But tell everybody, who is Roz Pichardo? Pichardo, not Pichardo.
Yeah. So I'm an activist, advocate. I wear many hats currently. So violence prevention, harm reductionist. It's pretty much my role. It's been since 2012.
2012, so it's been 11 years.
Yeah.
11 years. And you started as the violence preventionist, mm-hmm. where an advocate, where you went out and you actually were spreading awareness on things ranging from the gun violence to the domestic violence to just the violence hitting our streets, hitting home, mm-hmm. everything here in our city. Why? What was that moment where you're like, this is what I want to do and why I'm going to do it?
So, So Operation Save Our City, a movement that I started back in 2012, started after the homicide of my brother, Alexander Martinez. Just like many other cases here in Philly, that case is unsolved. And I mean, although I share with folks, I probably should have started back in '94. So I'm a survivor of an attempted homicide, and my boyfriend was murdered by the same person who tried to take my life. So I've been advocating for peace, for justice, sitting in many different courtrooms, you know, working with families, even in my own case, like learning the language and all these things that we all have to learn when we're thrown in a situation like this. So I've just been working ever since. I mean, now I'm with Ceasefire PA, and I'm as their Invest in Safer Communities coordinator, and I've been there since October.
This is a new role for you with Ceasefire.
It's a new role, yeah.
Ceasefire PA is what? Who are they?
So we deal a lot with policy legislation and things of that nature. It's not boots on the ground. I know, right?
Wow, how do you handle that? Because you are a person who wants to be out there, boots on the ground. You want to be out there. You want to be in the mix. You want to be connecting. You want to be hugging. You want to be fighting for people. How does that fit for you?
It's fitting because I'm still doing both. So I'm still in the streets, but I needed a different scenery. I needed to grow. I needed to learn the language of like Harrodsburg and legislation and policy.
Right.
And
so
in order for me to do that, I gotta find a different avenue that deals with the same thing, but also, you know, I'm growing.
So 11 years ago, you started Operation Save Our City.
Yeah.
It was an organization you started because of your brother being murdered. To date, have they found your brother's killer?
No, still unsolved.
Still unsolved.
Still unsolved.
Is this considered a cold case at this point with the city?
I mean, if you leave it to detectives, there is no such thing as a cold case. However, we all know if it's not solved, it's sitting on the shelf. It's doing absolutely nothing.
It's interesting you say that, you know, there's no such thing as a cold case when you look in, you know, in the police's eyes. Mm-hmm. But what are they doing today for that case? If they're not actively pursuing or working it,
they're not doing anything.
Wouldn't it be cold then?
Right. You would think it's not doing anything.
Right.
I mean, just like many cases, like if they don't have any leads and it just sits there, even though they've hired like, I don't know, like 12, 13 detectives in the past year or something like that.
They're staffing up.
They're staffing up,
Police department staffing up. Do you, with your brother, was your brother a targeted shooting?
So targeted meaning, yeah, they were attempting to take his stuff. Like, you know, they robbed him.
So it wasn't like it was a premeditated that they were looking for Alex.
No.
He was just a victim of circumstances and a victim of situation.
Yeah. So he was on his way with my nephew to the Chinese store to get some food, and something happened where they saw two guys walking together, and they were like, "I'm gonna rob him," and they ended up taking his stuff, and then they took his life too.
How old was your brother then?
23.
23. How old was your nephew?
16.
16 at the time.
Yeah.
So you lost your brother at the time, and your nephew experienced some considerable trauma at the time.
Oh yeah.
How does he deal with that now, your nephew?
I mean, he still has a hard time. Yeah, he still has a hard time with that.
Were they close?
Yeah.
Since the age and.
Yeah. Well, no, they weren't close in age, because Justin was 16 and my brother at the time was 23.
Okay.
But they were close.
They were close, but they were close.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
yeah. I mean, we all lived in the same. They lived in the same house. I didn't live in the same house, but they lived in the same house. So it was like one of those things where.
And you yourself were, you said, a victim of violence.
Yeah.
And that stemmed from a domestic standpoint, correct?
Yes.
Domestic,
yeah. I was very young. I was about 16 years old, and I had been experiencing some verbal abuse, physical abuse through my ex-boyfriend, Donald Williams. And that stemmed from his situation with violence. So he was a victim of gun violence. He was shot, and he didn't deal with that trauma, and he became a shooter, and that's what happens sometimes when you don't deal with your trauma.
And do you feel that's when people talk about a product of environment? I really hate when people say that, though, because
because you don't have to be.
You don't have to be. You don't.
No.
But when you talk about somebody like Donald Williams, who was a victim of abuse, a victim of violence growing up, that's sort of all he knew, I guess.
Yeah.
And it carried over then into his life, and that's what he knew and how to do it towards you.
Yeah, and that's why I left.
And how was that to leave? I mean, at 16 years of age, that's.
So my grandmother knew right away that he wasn't good for me. And, we don't listen to our parents. We don't listen to our grandparents because we know everything, right?
But we always know they're right.
Yes. So I was like, I'm going to leave. I said, I can't deal with him. So I broke up with him. And then I was dating Talbert Jackson, and we were going out, and one day he saw me walking on 11th and Erie, and he literally began beating me, and there's a bridge there on 11th and Erie, and
right next to the Cousins supermarket.
Yeah, the old Cousins supermarket. Yep. And he began to beat me, and people watched. People didn't do anything, and all of a sudden he tossed me over that bridge, and somehow I survived it, and then I made it to this first house that I ran into, and they helped me out. I was pretty bloodied up and banged up pretty bad, and then we called the police. They never came. So then I walked one block to my mom's house. Well, was attempting to walk to my mom's house, and then he started to shoot at me, and then shot through the door of the house that the gentleman first helped me. And then he went around the corner, and my boyfriend was waiting for me in front of my mom's house, and he shot him, point blank, shot him a couple times. And
this was all the same day.
All the same day.
So much trauma in one day.
One day.
And one lifetime. I mean, that right there is trauma that people don't experience ever.
But it didn't only happen to me. I mean, can you imagine the kids on that
around
block?
you,
Yeah.
and then the gentleman whose home you went into who got
he
shot
doesn't
at.
even live there anymore.
Oh, I couldn't imagine it happening like that, and I couldn't imagine being somebody who's just going about their day and all of a sudden being attacked for no purpose at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been a victim of violence as well, and the trauma stays with you. So yes, I can imagine, but this is really all in one day.
All in one day.
All in one day.
And many, many lives affected. The guy that helped me, the kids who were on the block when he was shooting at me, because I tell you, when I remember that, when I think about that incident, all I can remember is the gunfire and the kids running from porch to porch, and literally kids going underneath cars. I can see this as I'm running. And I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for the burn. I'm about to get shot in my back. I'm waiting. And it didn't happen. Thank God. So I'm like.
Literally.
And I can hear moms screaming, get in the house. Like, it was insane.
That's heavy for somebody your age. And, and then years later you face another traumatic issue that deals with, violence and gun violence, and it was actually a self-inflicted one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that would stem from what, Roz?
So that a lot of undealt with mental health that we don't often talk about at all. It's like a taboo thing.
Yeah, it's a stigma.
No one wants to talk about mental health. And I remember that day. So it was my identical twin sister, Kathleen Pichardo, and she was dealing with some mental health issues, and she was bipolar. And between the benzos, the coke, the drinking, the medication that were prescribed, it just spiraled out of control. And she went to a gun store. She purchased a gun, and then she shot herself. Now, if there were laws in place, she would have been able to get that gun.
And here you are now, full circle, with somewhere like Ceasefire PA, where you're learning the legislative part of it. You're learning the policies. Absolutely. You're learning about the things that 20 plus years ago, had they been in effect. How long has it been now for your sister, Kathleen?
Yeah, so it was 2000.
Okay, so 20 plus years ago, these laws and legislation weren't even in effect. I mean, the largest thing that ever happened was back in, 97, 98 with Columbine. Yeah. That was like, nobody knew what to do. That was widespread panic. You didn't hear about
Sandy Hook, like all this stuff happens in between.
Right. False. And then you have something like this that happens personally in an area that it's actually, and I hate to say this, common, where this is environment that we talk about. And you've dealt with this, this trauma, this tragedy, this is where you grew up, this was your life, and you've turned it around into being a voice. Yeah. And you are a voice.
Try to be.
You are, no, what do you mean try to be? You kidding? Yeah. They call you Mama Sunshine.
They do.
You carry a megaphone with you. Who else carries a megaphone with them when they walk the streets, huh? I don't know anybody who does that except for Roz. And you don't even need that megaphone because you can hear yourself. But, it's when we first met, it's been 7 years. 7 years since we met, and I've learned a lot from you. We've experienced a lot. We've seen a lot of change in our city. We've seen a lot of change in the community. We met because we were both advocating for the same issues at the time. And mine at the time, I wasn't advocating for the gun violence because that wasn't something that I was affected by at the time. It wasn't something I was really understanding. It is now because I have been affected by it. I've been shot at, I've been pistol whipped, things like that. But I didn't know a lot about it. But at the time, you were also newly becoming an advocate and activist for the substance use disorder that people have and the opioid crisis that our city...
That was an accident.
That was an accident. It was.
That was like one of those things where we talk, we all talk about vicarious trauma, self-care. And I was in one of my modes where I needed to be doing something that was like meaningful and healthy for me and like, self-care stuff. Yeah. So I began like making meals and just in my minivan giving out snacks.
With the blown out window.
Yes, right. And I'm like, what? I mean, and I just kept coming across people who were overdosing. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, how do I deal with this? So I just remember getting trained by some of my colleagues, and I never stopped. So now it's hand in hand, like violence prevention, harm reduction is all the same thing, No. It's all harm reduction, really, when you think about it.
People use the word harm reduction and they don't realize exactly that harm reduction encompasses and embodies everything you're trying to do to prevent trauma, to prevent harm to somebody or something or a community. Cleaning up the streets is harm reduction because you're ridding it of garbage and
Yeah.
potential disease on the street. People don't get that. So you've learned, and you've full circle, but you've also, encompassed everything from the gun violence, the substance use disorder, to the community. You have become one of the largest voices in the city and beyond.
Try my best.
Yeah. You have
Try my best.
You have been somebody that has done a documentary. And tell me about that documentary.
So I've done a documentary called Hello Sunshine.
And what does sunshine mean?
So sunshine is a person with substance use disorder or someone who was unhoused. So my role as an outreach worker and thousands of people I meet, I can't remember everyone's name. So
I hear you on that one.
So sunshine was it. Whether you're black, you're white, you're gay, you're straight, whatever, old, young, sunshine was the name. So now you go down the avenue and you yell out sunshine, everybody gonna turn around. Which sunshine you talking to? So that's how it is. And it's a word, it's an endearing word.
Absolutely.
It's not junkie, it's not crackhead, it's not addict, it's not all of these negative things that folks call our people. So sunshine was it, and it stuck.
And it has stuck.
And I'm Mama Sunshine.
You're Mama Sunshine for sure. So this documentary, Hello Sunshine, was, how long is the documentary?
So it's about 15 minutes, but we have like thousands of hours of footage. One day we'll
It started 5 years ago.
Yes.
I
And we
remember.
filmed for like three solid years of it, like
You had a gentleman by the name of Joe Quint who was
Yeah.
dedicated to coming down from Brooklyn.
New York, yeah.
Yeah, and he loved it too. He enjoyed
Oh.
it. He learned about it.
Oh, his wife was fed up with me. Oh, you're gonna go down to Philly?
Gonna
Be
go
careful.
down with Roz again?
Be careful. I mean, he always had a story when he went home, I'm sure, of the stuff that went down.
And then you've
But-
been in some film festivals with it.
Yeah.
How many?
I don't know.
Too
Quite a
many.
few.
What's
Quite a
up with
few.
that?
That's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
Awareness, yeah.
There we go.
Yep, awareness.
And that's what people will say. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do it? Was it for the fame?
No, I think after a while, when you've been doing this work, the broader the people you can reach, the bigger, then people will get it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was another film called Tipping the Pain Scales.
Oh yeah.
Now, when I tell people about this film was everywhere. When I say it was filmed in Boston, it was filmed in Wichita, some weird state.
Kansas.
Yeah,
Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah, like
Have you ever been to Kansas?
no.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
I didn't film there. I mean, and then Boston, like everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And you were in that. What was that about?
Where does the Oakland Raiders play?
Oakland, California.
California. Okay, it was filmed in California too, and Philly. All these different, and then our Secretary of State, Marty Walsh, was the mayor back then. Now he's the Secretary of State. Yeah, and he's in recovery,
Really?
which is why he's in the film.
I open up social media and I see you just because we're friends, and but I also open up social media and I see you outside of our friend circle. I see you like on the Pennsylvania Department of Health, as a sponsored ad, and you're on there because you're talking about Narcan and you're talking about naloxone and how it helps to reverse overdoses. And I being a recovering sunshine. I myself being one of the people that people aren't quite sure who they are or why they are what they are, and fight that stigma daily. I was thankful for naloxone, Narcan, because I'm a 5-time overdose survivor. You are on the Department of Pennsylvania State Health website, and you're talking about administering it because how many overdoses have you reversed at this point in time?
As of yesterday, 2004.
2004 overdoses, and when did you start to actually tabulate and calculate how many?
Since 2018.
So if you break that down,
Yeah.
And I don't mean to laugh, but like,
I
that's
don't know.
a lot.
I don't know how many a week.
2004, I actually want to know.
Don't ask me to do the math.
Where do you calculate these at?
In a little Bible. I put it in a little book. And so a lot of times, if you go down the ways, a lot of times there's folks, church folks. I'm not putting down my church folks. However, there's a time and a place where you hover over someone, and during an overdose is not one of those times at all.
Or places to do it.
Right. So, I mean, I have my own, I'm not super religious, but, I do believe in prayer. And I just do it on my own time. Once I'm done, I'm going to put in my little Bible. Mm-hmm. And I actually have my Bible with me.
Do you?
I do.
Let me see it. Bring it out.
I didn't calculate, wait a minute. Yeah, now y'all know a woman's purse is like.
And while you're going through that suitcase that you call a purse.
Right, listen here. We carry everything and the kitchen sink in this thing, if people don't know.
You also like travel the public transportation lines, and you do pop-up training for Narcan.
Yeah.
Which is, let me see. Okay, so this is Narcan.
That one's.
What does this do?
It reverses an overdose.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it a drug?
I mean, it's naloxone.
Naloxone. So why is it that this is out there and it's free?
That one's expired, ain't it?
It is. I didn't want to say anything as I looked at it, but expiration dates are just like everything else. They're just there.
Here's a good one.
Well, let's talk about that. It's expired.
Yeah.
Can it still be used?
I mean, I would still use it.
I'd still use it. Why not? They put expiration dates on things so that way you get more.
Right.
To spend more money.
But let me tell you, like those cans of soup, listen, my mother gave me some expired. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me.
There was no botulism there, huh?
There's nothing wrong with me.
Okay, well, I beg to differ on that
That can of soup still work.
But, so you got your Bible.
Nourishment, yes. I really did throw my mom under the bus.
I didn't
She
want to
gave
say
me
anything
expired
more.
food, whatever.
Hey, listen, the woman went through a lot of trauma, too.
Yes.
And she deals with you.
This is what you're going to get today. Expired soup.
Yeah, so let's see that Bible.
So I don't put names in here. However, I'll just read a couple off, just random pages. This one was on 4/29/2019. A male in his 50s. Location was 5th and Cambria. 1 Narcan, 11 a.m. And I have a little note here said I was stabbed with a needle.
Was that one of the times that you had to go to the hospital?
Yes, yes. And this was someone I knew very well. And my people don't normally get aggressive, hardly ever when I reverse them. But I think with this gentleman, you can smell the K2. And so between the heroin at the time, because I don't think it was fentanyl back then as much as it is now. So it was heroin and the K2, and it caused them to be like all over the place.
Now, will Narcan work on the K2 and the fentanyl and the tranq?
So it would definitely work on, it would reduce some of the symptoms of the K2 because of what's in it, like the heroin and the fentanyl. So that's what it would work for.
So will naloxone work on fentanyl?
Yes.
It will?
Yes.
So you can reverse a fentanyl overdose with naloxone or Narcan?
Yes.
Can you reverse anything from tranq? Is this effective on the tranq, the xylazine that's going on out there right now?
No, it will not because it's not an opiate. However, some of the symptoms are going to be reduced because the drug supply, all of it has fentanyl, all of it has an opiate. So it's going to reduce some of the symptoms, like the breathing, the labored breathing that you get from the overdose is going to help that out. It's not going to help the fact that you're going to still be sleepy because of the tranq.
Okay.
Which is why a lot of people who are on tranq, they will take them to the hospital after you've given them Narcan because they don't really know where they are because they're not coherent.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And they're mad.
I don't.
A little upset sometimes. Because
I still like, I don't
I
experience
have.
that. Yeah?
Oh, absolutely, I have. I have experienced it when I reversed one. I've also experienced it myself when I was brought out of one.
Okay, was it with tranq or was it just heroin?
It was with the heroin and the fentanyl. It wasn't with
Okay.
tranq. Tranq wasn't really prominent, 7 years ago when I was
Yeah,
active
yeah.
addiction, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, and it's funny because here we are. We're sitting here. We're talking about Ceasefire PA. We're talking about Operation Save Our City. We're talking about your advocate work on the streets. We're talking about all the wonderful things that you do. What do you do for yourself?
What don't I do for myself? Listen, I
Besides,
practice
you like
self-care.
to eat well.
Yes, I do. I practice self-care every day.
And what is self-care to you?
Every day. So, the very first thing that I do in the morning, and I've been practicing this for years, is because someone like myself experienced so much trauma, every single day I have to wake up with a meditation, whatever that may look like. So it's either breathing, either having a cup of coffee. Back when I used to smoke my cigarettes, I would go to the backyard and smoke a cigarette.
You're not smoking cigarettes anymore?
No.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's been since October.
Good for you.
Yeah. So.
Doesn't smell like an ashtray anymore.
Right. My hair don't smell like cigarettes. Jeez. So I would, whatever that looked like for me, 5 minutes. I would spend 5 minutes in the morning to deal with the grief, the loss, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be like reflecting. And every now and then, you know, I'm in the backyard breaking up my mom's ugly knickknacks that she gave me, you know.
Why do parents do that?
I don't know.
They love to give you the
Stuff
crap
that
they don't want,
Yeah.
that you don't need. My mother actually...
It ends up in the backyard.
Well, she'll give me stuff that I gave to her as a gift for Mother's Day or her birthday. She'll be like, isn't this really nice? Do you want it? I'm like, I bought that for you. I'm like,
That's
no.
horrible.
So the one year I gave her a gift back that she regifted to me. I regifted it back to her. She had no clue. No clue.
Forgot.
Yeah, no clue. But mothers are good for that.
Yeah,
How about travel?
yeah.
I know you like to travel because Laura knows you like to put your feet in the sand and take me on excursions like
Yeah.
brutal, rainy, flooding days.
You know, I've definitely been doing a lot of traveling. I try to really insert myself in spaces that people don't want harm reductionists. So I've been finding myself working a lot with the DEA. And, you know, everyone knows that, you know, the DEA, they don't believe in harm reduction until something happens.
Right.
You know, and now I'm in spaces where, you know, we have family summits, we're in schools, we're just talking about harm reduction. And, you know, we're doing away with the DARE program. Goodness gracious.
Oh, let's not even talk about that's a different show. Dare.
Yeah.
Dare to stay away from that, please.
Yeah.
It's not what it was back
The
in the
war on
80s.
drugs.
It's just, the war on drugs. Let's scare people.
Yeah, that's
you know?
ridiculous.
You know, Roz, it's interesting too. Like the other day we went out and we went for lunch, as we do at one of our favorite little Mexican places here in Kensington, La Cantina Martina.
Yes.
Amazing. If you haven't eaten there and you haven't been there, you need to really check it out because it's an amazing place.
Yeah.
But we were standing outside, and as we were, this guy came walking by with two little kids, two little girls, and he's holding their hands. And as he was walking by, he was connecting with you in the eyes, and I saw you connecting back, and I saw you tense a little bit because you maybe weren't sure what he was going to say or do. What did he say?
He said that I was doing good work or something like that.
He said, you do really good work in our community.
Yeah.
And it took you by surprise a little bit because why?
Well, one, I didn't even know why he was approaching me.
And he was coming quickly, too.
Oh, he was coming fast.
I thought, I was like,
I didn't know
waiting
what was
for
going down.
you know.
What was going down?
I thought he was going to swing. I was just going to get out of the way because you could handle your own.
Armbar, little jiu-jitsu, maybe a little taekwondo. I don't know. No, I didn't know what was happening, but he came up pretty fast. But it was really nice. And so I don't remember what the little girl said. Did she say thank you or something like that? She turned around and said something.
She did.
But it was really sweet. I was like, man, I'm glad people recognize, you know, that I'm doing a little bit of work. Not that I need any recognition, but because I...
But I also want to say, I think it
good.
was cool that it wasn't somebody who's in the harm reduction world or sphere. This was a regular resident walking down the avenue with his two daughters, who is a community person who most people in the community and residents do not like us.
They don't
want to be around us. They see us coming, they're like, oh, great.
Yeah.
But he was excited, and he thanked you. And
that felt great.
does it ever get old?
No. I mean, I do so much work sometimes, and I'm like, man, I can't wait till my self-care. But then when that happens, that's like self-care.
It just makes the whole day worth it.
I was so happy. I was like, look at this guy. With his
You're on the
little
go
face.
all the time, morning till night.
Yeah.
You're taking care of everybody, taking care of your family, taking care of other people's families. You're tracking shooters down.
Yeah.
You're dropping flyers in their mailboxes from the family so they can turn them in because there's a reward out for them. And, you know, we giggle about it, but it's true. I mean, they will turn them in for the money. Plus, it's the moral thing to do. You're doing that. You're working ceasefire. You're traveling to Harrisburg. You're traveling to New York. You're, you know, you're down in the White House, whatever you're doing down there. I don't know, you're cleaning, eating, what you're doing there. But you're making trips there. You're doing things.
Yeah.
Do you ever get lost in the moment where you're just like, who is Roz Pichardo?
You know, no, I don't get lost. I think every day I have to put things in perspective. Every single day. Because no matter what we do as activists and advocates, violence can affect all of us. And it can affect our own kids in ways that people can't even fathom, right? So as an advocate, you know, we deal a lot with trying to grow our seed, make sure that our kids are safe. And sometimes even our own kids, you know, don't follow the rules of what mom, you know, we don't listen to our parents a lot of times. And
They're never right.
Sometimes even we can't even save our own kids. And that's why I say, you know, I've been advocating for a long time. And my own kid is in a situation that I never would have thought that my kid would be in some situations. I say this to say that if you have young kids, I mean, my son is older, but know what they're doing. Know exactly what they're doing. Flip their mattresses over, go in their book bag, go on their Instagram, go on their Facebook, find out what your kid is talking about, find out what your kid is doing now that they're young. Don't wait till they're 25 and they're out of your house and you know absolutely nothing about them.
You can't control it.
You can't control, not even your own kids.
No, that's what I mean. You can't control what's going on even when they're in the house sometimes.
Yeah.
Let alone what happens when they're out. So if you instill it in them when they're younger, it's going to carry over. But also, don't forget, you can tell them as much as you want.
So you're blue in the face, and they're going to go their own direction.
They're still gonna do it.
And as an advocate, you know, I struggle with that because, you know, you think as a parent, did I fail, right? But then you got to ask, this is a grown-ass man. I cannot control what he does, you know? But it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, he is going to be accountable not only for the actions, but to whatever higher power he's dealing with, whatever that may look like. And talk about the people that they're around. Don't be pressured into trying to fit in somewhere that you don't even belong. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like know what your kid is doing when they're young. Mm-hmm. You know, flip in their, like, you got to go in their room, in their closets, go into every shoe, find out what's in them shoes, what's in their mattress, what's underneath them, what's above those ceiling tiles. You got to search because sometimes these kids are doing, you see all the kids that happen, you know, downtown? Mm-hmm. Where are their parents? They're so young.
They are.
You know, 12, 10.
And it's funny because, you know, then you have your kids who are going to, like, you know, cry, you know, privacy, stuff like that. Well, it's your home. But also, you know, as a parent, you know, I don't know. I'm not a parent. I don't have children. But I do know that...
there is no privacy, though.
There is, you know, go with your gut.
You don't pay bills.
No, I know.
Listen, if we start slamming doors or closing doors and locking doors at my mom's house, the door came off. We had no door. The door was off the hinges. You have no door. Until you pay your bills and you stop talking back, there is no door.
And we just used to have the drawer with the wooden spoon.
Right.
You know.
La chancleta.
But, you know, and you know, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry that, you know, you're experiencing this right now on a level, and I'm sorry your son's experiencing what he's going through. And, you know, I'll pray that, you know, for you all on it. And it's also interesting as a parent to hear you say, you know, you can see the concern and you know the concern you have, but also what can you do now? He's a grown-ass man, you said.
He's grown.
And you've got to just say, hey.
All we can do is be there, right? That's all we can do as a parent, as a mother, as a person who knows.
And how many kids you have?
2.
2? And how old are they?
22 and 26.
Oh my gosh, your youngest one is 22 already?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, you're old.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm a grandmother.
I know.
I'm a cute grandma.
You're a good-looking grandmother.
I'm a G-mom.
G-ma. G-ma. You don't, you don't want them to call you anything but G-ma.
Right. Please don't call me grandma. That gets old real quick. No, I just really been honing in on the students lately because, I'm getting ready to go to John Welsh Middle School once I leave here. And again, talking about choices.
And how old are the students there?
So these students they're in 3rd grade. So that's going to be very cute.
Nice.
3rd graders.
Do you enjoy that?
I do.
Yeah.
Lately I have been because of this, you don't do stuff until something hurts you, right? So I really didn't like hanging around a bunch of kids too much.
Me either.
But I find that that's the people that we have to be around. Because they're going to be our future legislators, policymakers, presidents. They're the ones going to be leading in a couple years. They're going to be the one changing policy. Just recently we had a hearing and a testimony, excuse me, at Harrisburg for the first time in 10 years when it came to policy and legislation when it comes to gun violence. In 10 years. They've never had one. So it's moving slow. And in 60 years, there's never been a bipartisan law passed on gun prevention advocacy until the summertime. 60 years.
60. Where does Philadelphia rank in the United States as far as gun violence and the number of shootings or deaths? Or do you know?
I don't even know.
How many are we at this year? How many shootings?
I want to say it's like 200 maybe.
200.
No. It's a way more shootings, but homicides.
Homicides, yeah. Shootings are a lot more, but homicides.
Probably 1,200 or something.
200
crazy.
plus homicides due to shooting, and over 1,200 shootings. And there's gunshots fired every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
So one of my jobs that I had recently, I don't work there anymore, but was literally in the emergency room.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were doing trauma.
I was doing trauma work, and I worked in the ER.
You did the graveyard shift. You did the weekends, overnight, the craziest times to be in a North Philly hospital.
And it was a great hospital to be in, but the vicarious trauma. When I tell you, when you sit there and you watch these babies get their chest cracked open, when you see pints of blood, transfusions, when you see someone shot multiple times, a pregnant woman shot. I remember, I obviously can't say any names, I just remember this one kid, this mom holding her baby, and the baby was shot. She just ran in, and this baby was shot. When I tell you that a trauma bay is one of the fast-paced place I've ever worked in my entire life. Like, things can happen in an instant. Things can die in an instant, or people can be saved in an instant. It's like one of those things, something's going to happen here, and we all hope that it's a good thing. I hope that they come out of this. We had a mass shooting in Kensington, and that was never really talked about.
No,
nothing
barely in Kensington is talked about.
Barely made the news. It was 9 people shot, and I remember that day.
It was a weekend overnight, right?
Yeah. It was brutal, and when I tell you it was a brutal scene. 9 people were shot, and right before those 9 people were shot, we had an incident where a kid was playing with a firearm, and this was, in like maybe 2 hours before the 9 came in, accidentally shot, accidentally shot his own family member, and the kid didn't make it. And I just remember them having put this kid in handcuffs. That was like heartbreaking. And it ended up being that the person who owned the guns ended up being arrested because they had like an arsenal in their house. And these kids were playing with the gun and doing a music video for their Instagram, not knowing the gun was loaded. And those are some of the things that I see, and the whole family was devastated because they were related. So the mom is talking to the sister, and just knowing that her kid shot her, it was constant death,
You give out gun locks.
Yeah.
I've been out with you. We've been on the streets. We've been on the streets with, SEPTA Transit, police giving out gun locks. You give out gun locks. You actually go into the areas where nobody else wants to go in, where we all go into, advocates and activists, and hand them out to those who are dealing, to the sellers as well. And, you just make sure that the communities, if people want gun locks, what can they do to get them?
Just hit up Operation Save Our City.
And how can they contact you?
Facebook, Instagram. Yeah.
Operation Save Our City, and you can get some free gun locks there.
Yeah.
And they are not meant to lock up a bike, because if she sees a bike locked up, what will you do?
I will steal my gun lock and the bike.
And the bike. And she ain't lying about
that. I got a couple
lying.
of bikes to prove it.
And she rides those bikes sometimes too, those little tricycles with the baskets.
Don't use my gun lock for a bike lock.
If there's like one word of or one statement of advice you could give to people today in general for what you do, what would it be?
Be good to yourself. I think you got to be centered to do this work. You gotta stay whole.
And what about for the people who don't understand the work that we do and what goes on out there? What would you say to them?
Be kind to us.
Be kind to us is right. Or don't mess with us, because in the
Be
end,
kind to us.
Be kind to us and don't mess with us.
Right.
But no, there's a lot of awareness to be spread. Everybody is somebody, whether it comes to the opioid epidemic and crisis, or it comes to the gun violence and the overall violence in our city. Everybody is somebody.
Yeah.
And it affects everybody, the families, the neighbors, the community, everything. It's sometimes I always say it seems like we're fighting a losing battle. And I know that's a negative self-talk sometimes.
It feels that way, but things are turning. You see it every day. People who we thought weren't going to make it, they're in recovery or not, but they're still out there.
But they are.
Yeah.
And we see them, and they're making it. And best we could do is each day give them a little bit of love each day.
Yeah.
And people, what do you say to people when they say, but all you're doing is enabling them, Roz?
We're giving people a chance to, one, stay alive.
Right.
Long enough. Because dead people can't recover, right? If you're dead, you can't recover. So when you just remind folks, you got a chance. You can't walk over somebody who's OD and say, oh, they did it to themselves. You can't do that. That's a human. Just like, if we have the means to plug up a gunshot wound, if we have the means to give someone an EpiPen, if we got the means to give someone metformin for their diabetes, we gotta help whatever way we can. Whether that's recovery, whether that's intervention, whatever that looks like for some folks.
And I really believe that people don't realize that, they are capable of helping. Every day. They're capable of helping in some way, shape, or form. Narcan training, it's free.
It's free.
They want that, they hit you up. If not, look for her on the L.
Free, right.
She'll ride the L from Kensington to University City and back, and she'll train people.
Yeah, I do. During the baseball games, football games, basketball games, I'm on the train doing the Narcan training. Give out at least 400 doses during that time frame.
And to the people who say, I don't want to learn, they can carry it anyway, because it can be used. It can be used. What about as far as, the gun violence and stuff like that? What's one common thing that a woman may have in her purse that can help if there was a gunshot or something?
A tourniquet.
And how can what would they use to block?
So you just got to put it on wherever the wound is, like above the wound, and stop the bleed.
Anybody could do this stuff, right?
Anybody.
And if you don't feel comfortable and you don't feel like you know how to, pass it along. Or,
well, at least you have it.
Yes. Yes.
You have it, you know?
Carry the stuff. It's not that difficult.
It's not that hard.
Not that difficult at all.
It's not.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite drink?
I like margarita.
I knew that. That's why I asked. I mean,
I like margaritas.
you do.
With the salt, with the high blood pressure on the rim. My doctor's going to kill me.
The reason I asked that is because that is your self-care right there.
Yeah, I
You
like
know?
margaritas. From La Cantina.
La Cantina. Where else? You can name them from here to Delco and back.
Listen. Yeah, I do like Spazzos and Media. Makes them delicious. With their happy hour pizza.
You're the only person I know that will go from lunch to happy hour and not think twice.
Who cares? Listen,
Oh, my
I'm up all
gosh.
hours of the night. So it's like...
So we have the mayoral race, you know, right now, the candidates, and I went to the WHYY forum that, you know, Ceasefire was part of sponsoring. Any favorites on your end that you're...
Well, I am liking Reinhardt. I'm also liking Helen
Ginton?
a little bit, you know,
little
but
bit.
I don't know. I mean, because she's about school. That's why. That's because she's about the students.
Right.
However, there's other. I don't know. I'm having a hard time.
There was a lot of people this year.
Yeah.
A lot of people this time.
Yeah.
You know, Maria Quinona Sanchez, she just left.
She dropped out.
She
yeah.
dropped out. Then you have
Green.
yeah.
And then you have it's two greens, aren't there? Amir Green or is it two browns? I don't know.
Browns. And then
Jeff Brown.
Then you have Judge DeLeon,
Judge De Leon,
former homicide judge.
yeah, I don't know if he should be running for mayor though. If you're a judge, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that like a conflict?
listen, there's more conflict there than just that, I'm sure. But
Yeah, like I don't know. Well, I mean, I know him personally.
Yeah.
You know, he's a friend of mine, so I can talk. I can talk garbage right now if I want.
even if
But I
they
won't.
weren't, you would talk garbage now.
That's true. No, but I don't know what. Well, I'm not a lawyer or anything, so I wouldn't know.
I like Rebecca Reinhardt. I think, you know.
Did she find
knows
all
the
that
city.
money at the city controller?
I think that's why I like her. I think I like her because she knows the city, stuff like that. But, you know, we have that coming up. We have a lot of things coming up. Roz, once again, if they want to get a hold of you, where are people going to find you? Other than the streets.
Instagram, Kensington Avenue.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, Operation Save Our City. Roz Pichardo. Facebook everything's pretty public. I'm like an open book.
Just Google her name and you will find her out there.
I'm not hard to find.
She does amazing things. You're amazing. You are my snack pack. You are one of my favorite people in the world.
You are my snack pack.
You keep me grounded, and I appreciate you. And you do so much for the city and beyond that people really need to look you up. They need to check you out. They need to see all the great things you do, and they need to understand that, you know, they too can do some really good things.
Yeah.
You know.
Put
So
some snacks together.
absolutely,
Let's hit the streets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get in that hoopty of a minivan and with a broken out
let's
window
go.
and just do it.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Roz, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for coming out today.
Thanks for having me.
Got it. And everybody, once again, if you are not following this lady, check her out on social media, Operation Save Our City or Roz Pichardo. Once again, thank you to Dylan and Nanny, my guys back there in the booth. I appreciate you guys keeping me on track. Right back at you guys. And to everybody else out there, remember what it is you stand for. Be a voice. This is Britt James and Usalamedia. Have a great rest of your day.